Evening all, and welcome to a little tutorial on the basic goods transportation using chutes and belts in Factory Town. The basic way to move goods is via a worker or wagon, or via the 4 different types of transportation belts, one of which is a chute. The 4 types are a chute, which is just a wooden run, a cloth conveyor belt, which is the slowest of the conveyor belts, a metal one, which is the medium, and a magic one, which is the fastest one. They all do the same thing, basically. The 3 belts definitely do the same thing. The chute has a few special mechanics with it, but generally it's they all use to transport goods. So here we have a little scenario set up where we've got workers grabbing trees, going along to a lumber mill, the lumber mill producing planks, and the planks going to general goods via a barn. So yeah, that's all normal, that's all good, that's fine. But this is slow. Our workers have to run all the way up here, come all the way back again, and it's a bit of a pain. So let's stop them and let's put in a chute to do it. We could put it in a belt, but we'll put in a chute for this one here. And we're going to draw a chute directly from there by clicking and holding and just dragging out, and you'll see the line changes the different ways, and you can drag any way you want. Whichever way you start dragging is important, because if you drag like here, if I drag to the left and then do this, it will go left and along. If I drag down and then left, it will go down along. So we can position the belt exactly how you want it to be, depending on the direction you start from the starting square. But we just want to go along to here, making note to make sure it goes to a green arrow, not the red one, because the red one is the output. So that goes into there. And then that chute will allow our workers to take trees, put them on the end of the chute, and then they will travel all the way down here and go into our lumber mill here. Now you'll notice it goes down and uphill and does all sorts of weird things here, and they're speeding up as time goes on. And that's important to notice with chutes. Chutes use gravity and momentum to move goods, so the longer the chute is, the faster the goods will become, and also the straighter. If you have curves in it, if you have angles in it, it will slow it down. So it's important to remember that. Also, what's important to remember is uphill. Generally, chutes don't like it. Here we're getting away with it because it's long enough and we have a downhill to give it the momentum to speed up to get over it. But if we were to do it back here, the train block up there, and we did a chute over there, it would fail. You see it goes up, it just stops. It can't make it up there at all. So you'll see it goes up and it comes back down again and then just stops and can't do anything. So you have to make sure to either go around that, which you can do. You can just go drag around to there and then drag around to there, and that should connect up and go like it does. Sometimes you will have weird things happen with your chutes where you drag into there and it does this sort of thing, and that won't work because the goods will come along here, around here, and then just stop. So what you need to do in that scenario is grab your chutes, right click to remove the offending block, and if you push the R key you can see it changes angles as to where it's facing. So you can go, well, I want that way, connect it in there like the old Pipe Mania games if anyone's ever played them, and you can just connect it up and you can build the chutes that sort of way, and that will work. It's stuck at the moment because this log is trying to go to the right and it can't go to the right. It's not allowed to because there's no block there, so it can't do that way. If you end up with goods running into each other, they'll just stop on the line. You need to use the move tool, press LEM key, use move tool to click on it to remove it, and then your goods will carry on working absolutely fine. And you can see here it's not getting as much speed up now because they're having to constantly go around corners. They are still getting over this lump because it's going downhill and then up again. Generally you don't want to go uphill with a chute. We're trying to avoid it. Try and go down or straight. If it goes up by 1 block you might be able to get away with it depending on the speed, but be careful with that. Belts don't matter if they're going up or downhill because they're powered anyway. Chutes also allow you to split things off without using any logic whatsoever. So if we were to remove those goods there and we're going to say have something like that, we can then put in a block going right and going left, and now that can go left and right. Goods will always prefer to go straight on as a priority, then they'll go right, then they'll go left. So if straight on is blocked, they will go right. If right is blocked, they will go left. So that's important to know because it is possible to have a priority system off a chute. So if you had 2 lumber mills, one doing, say, planks, one doing paper, you can say, hey, planks want to be a priority, so I'll have the chute go right, so we'll always do that. Then once the planks fill up, you can go off to the paper, or vice versa. You know, you can do that. You can put in logic blocks here to make sure it goes one left, one right. You can use a splitter, and a splitter will go and always force it one left, one right, one straight on, if there's a space there. So it will always even it out. Splitters, any logic blocks work on any of the conveyors absolutely fine. Now, inputs and outputs are important as well on buildings. All buildings, with the exception of these 3 here, the silo, the well and the crate, have a 3x3 base, 3 squares by 3 squares, and that allows you to have 48 inputs and outputs, or more importantly, 47 inputs and outputs and 1 guaranteed output. Because the very front of the block, very front of the building, you can see has a red arrow. That means it is output only. All the other ones, they have a green arrow, and that means they're input, but can also be outputs. But they won't auto output. So if I put a chute there, it won't automatically go out. It won't do that. But if I put a chute there, it will. Or at least it would if it was allowed to. You see, logs are a gathered resource, so they can go onto chutes along with, as I said, grain, stone, coal, that sort of thing. Planks, however, are a processed resource, so they can't go onto chutes. You must use belts for this, and then it can output onto a belt. It's essentially, I think, if the item's round, it can roll. If it's square, it can't. There is an exception to this. We'll get to it over there. It's flour and animal feed. I'm not sure why they can, but they can travel on belts, chutes, sorry, but we'll get there. So we've got one output, and we've got the inputs, and everything's working fine here, and everything is fine and dandy and happy, and yeah, brilliant. Okay, but what if this was filling up? What if this had many, many more things into it and was filling up a lot quicker? Which we can emulate by putting down a forester. So if we get rid of our workers there and put down a forester here. He says trying to find one. Forester. There. Nope, that was a farm. There we go. Okay, put down a forester there, like so, and you can grab trees. Okay. And then we'll put in a like that, and there we go. You can grab trees, you can be happy. Well, grab all the trees. Go nuts. There we go. Okay. So this will start filling up with logs, and it won't fill up with planks, but let's just say, for instance, it was producing enough goods to fill up with loads of planks, and we needed multiple outputs. Well, you can do that. You can do that on the floor, like this, and you just use grabbers. In logistics, use a grabber, and put a grabber down facing away from the building. It's quite important to know that it must face away from the building, and that grabber will grab the goods from inside the building and take them out, and it will drop them on the belt or chute or whatever that is underneath it, not in front of it. And I say that because it's a mistake I can see people making. If we had a belt like this, for instance, that was going off to one side, you might think with a grabber, well, I need it going that way because I want it facing this way. But that won't grab anything because it's got nothing behind it to grab. The grabber grabs from the block behind it and places it on the block it's on. So for the grabber, you want it always facing that way. It will take out from the building behind it, and it will drop it onto the belt that's underneath it. So if we turn that one off, this grabber will now grab and drop onto the belt underneath it. It doesn't matter which way the belt is facing, that's how they work. So that's important to note with them there. It doesn't matter which way the belt or chute is facing, the grabber must go from the building. So that's working, and that'd be fine, and we'd have 2 outputs there. But that causes a bit of a problem, because what if we want this worker to get into here? Say there's something in here. I don't know what. Say there's a well in here, and we want to get some water from that well. Well, we can't. The worker can't get in there. He's stuck. This is completely blocked in. We can't do anything. So we need to make a space underneath or a path over the top. That's where you can use 3 dimensions for your belts and chutes and other bits and pieces. You see, I said these allowed 48 inputs and outputs, or 47 and 1 output. That's because you can go up as well as along. So if we put in 4 scaffolding pillars here, and we then put in a belt on each level like so, you'll see that has 4 belts on 1 square, and that's the maximum you can do. 4 belts going up, and that allows you to have 4 outputs. So 4 outputs times the 24 sides, 12 sides, gives you 48 inputs and outputs, but the center front one must be an output only. So with that 3-dimensional pickup in mind, you can remove the belts underneath and run the belts along at a higher level. So if we were to run them along there, you'll see it automatically goes down to the ground floor. Now we don't want that, because we want to go up higher and have our people walk underneath. So if you hold control whilst dragging from a higher point, it will automatically put in scaffold blocks underneath to allow you to build a belt higher up. Now that's wonderful, but it has 2 major drawbacks. Let's quickly put in a grabber here to show you that this is working. You'll see here. Now our worker's going to start going because obviously he can get round now, but we'll let me block this one off again just to, there we go. Right, so now you can't grab water, can you? No, there we go. Okay, so in order for the worker to get underneath there, it needs to be accessible, and there are 2 important things here to note. Is that the scaffold block is a solid block. It has a solid base to it, so therefore it can't allow anything to travel through or under or around it. The wooden archway does not have a solid block, and that means that our worker should be able to get in there and come out again. I don't think he can, because that's actually on the ground. So what we need to do is we need to put in scaffold pillars like so, and I think, yeah, there you go. Now we can get in and out because there is no block on the ground, and he'll happily grab the water, and we'll say go to the base, go on, start doing the run there. Okay, he's happy with that. Now it's important to note these things here because they do different things. If I was to put a scaffold block on there, it will block the belt. You can see there, it blocks it. Because the scaffold has a locked bottom, it blocks the line and doesn't allow belts to carry on. If I put in a wooden arch, however, because it has the open bottom to it, it will allow blocks through. So it's important to note that, particularly when running scaffold different places. If I remove these here, and a common thing that's happened to me is I've had a belt coming out of the center place here, and then I've had another belt come along like so to travel to somewhere else, and that blocks off the output. It can't get out, and you're looking at it thinking, well, why doesn't that work? I can see a gap underneath there. Why is that? That's weird, that doesn't work there. And you see our worker can walk underneath that because the ground block isn't there. That's it, and it throws you off, and you spend a little while trying to figure out why your good system stopped distributing, what's going on with it, something's wrong. And all it takes is for you to remove those blocks there, replace that one with a wooden arch, and then put your belt back in, and that will work. That will allow it to go through. I tend to try and build my bridges first with wooden arches and then put my belts on top, because that just works better in my head. But yeah, that's the important parts there to know about belts and their 3 dimensions. As I said, you can technically have 48 input or 47 inputs and outputs and 1 guaranteed output, so there's lots of ways in and out of normal buildings. The silo, well and crate, however, are slightly different in the way they work. They only have a single block to work with. The silo and the well work exactly the same as any other building. They still have a 4 high hitbox, so if I do that, draw out the bits and pieces, this grabber will grab the wood from that one, and that will grab the water from the well, and that's absolutely fine. But the crate does not. The crate is an actual piece that's only, I believe, has outputs on the bottom level. It may have higher than that. Let's double check this. So we'll build 3, and we'll go bottom one go out to there. Let's build a couple of lines here, shall we? There we go. Right, and if we put some grabbers in here, put that one, and that one. Okay, and we can see only the bottom line works. Okay, so with a crate, only the actual, you can only output on ground level with them. That's all they can do. So that's the only block that does that. Everything else works the same. These ones obviously are just a 1 block rather than the 3x3, but they work the same way. You can do 4 levels on them. So a crate technically only has 3 inputs and 1 output. But the other thing to notice about a crate is that it doesn't have an auto output. If I remove these blocks off here, you'll see it doesn't output. Silos do. Silos do have an auto output. You see the red line there. But crates do not. Crates only have inputs. They are purely designed as like a storage medium for workers, really, I suppose. You put goods inside them and then have wagons come out. Not really designed for belts and chutes, but they can be used for it with grabbers, just only at the ground level. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers everything for the belts and chutes, with the only exception being these things here. Now, as I mentioned, chutes can only carry standard goods, which are harvested goods, grains, trees, iron, coal, I think sugar, that sort of thing. Everything that can be grabbed from the ground can be put onto a chute. If you try and put things on a chute that aren't allowed to, then you'll get that mark that comes up, that the big no-no sign, saying can't do this, not allowed to do that. Building will output item that is not compatible with a chute. Whereas here, the flour and animal feed is compatible with a chute, even though it's processed goods. That's the only real thing you have to kind of know here, is that when you do that, they can go on chutes, and they're the only items that are processed that I think can do that. There may be some others that I haven't discovered yet, but that's generally it. But that's the only other thing to note as well. Generally you use conveyors anyway for things, but yeah, just so you know, flour and animal feed can run on chutes. And I think that pretty much covers everything. Obviously the different belts I've not shown, they're just different speeds. They do exactly the same things, just completely different speeds. Perhaps we should check which one is actually faster. Okay, so to find out which chute is actually the fastest, we have here a little speed run going. I have silos here full of animal feed, and with blockers set up to a gate so I can turn them all on at the same time. And we have a 50 block run of each different type: chute, cough, metal, and magic conveyor belt. And I'm going to turn this on, and then we're going to have a look, see which one gets to the end first. And then as soon as one hits the end, I'm going to turn it off, and we'll see as things. I'm going to pause the game, I should say, and we'll see as things goes. So here we go. Let's see which one is actually the fastest. Go. And very, very, very clearly you can see that the chutes win by a long, long way. How many blocks is that? Let's see here. Let's that is 20. It says down in the bottom left corner. 20 blocks. So on a 50 block run, chutes gain 20 blocks on any other distribution. That's obviously just a straight one. When you're talking about corners, other bits and pieces, it's all odd and wrong, and things change. Obviously the chutes slow down. I think these are a constant speed, so it goes fine. So yeah, if you're running, I would say 20 blocks or less, then magic conveyor belts are faster overall. But if you're running anything more than that, then yeah. Oh, stop. There we go. Okay, so something else I do want to very quickly test, however, if we put those in there, allow them to all empty. See, our cloth one is really, really, really struggling. If I were to go and do a 20 block test, which is there, let's quickly do that one as well. Boom. It looks as if... okay, maybe 15 blocks. So 15 blocks, the magic conveyor belt is faster. Any other one, the chute is faster. But of course, bear in mind the chute can only carry a certain amount of goods. So, yeah. And obviously, cloth, metal conveyor, they were obvious. I don't know why I put them all in there, but it was interesting to see. Interesting to see just how much you can go there. But yeah, when it comes to cornering and bits and pieces, this would work. I suppose the best way to test that would be to build a track, but that's for a completely different video. So that is how chutes and belts work with the different inputs and outputs, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.